Hey guys, Dennis here with Revog Games. I'm joined by
Joshua Weyers, all the way in South Africa, with electricity, so we could do this
yes,
podcast.
yeah. It's been I think a couple of weeks since our last
Mm.
podcast. We got a lot of news to cover, a lot of stuff going on. We have like the Sony State of Play stuff. There was a Nintendo Direct. There's some Microsoft news. There's a whole bunch of stuff. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm pretty sure. I think I mentioned it a while ago. I crashed my car a month ago, so it's been pretty. Life's been a bit complicated, but I just bought a used car today and picking it up tomorrow morning, so life should get back on track. And it did put a needle in the. For those who don't know, I live in a country that has rolling blackouts, and we've had
Yeah.
rolling blackouts for 15 years. And it's only getting worse. However, they have privatized the company, and hopefully that'll make things better. But
hmm
until then, I was going to get an inverter, battery, solar panel thing just to keep the power on during then. But then buying a used car sets you back, and so
Yeah.
I think I'm still going to be dealing with power issues for like another month. But then after that, hopefully solar panels and whatnot should keep me going. Then we can get content rolling out for you guys a lot better and a lot quicker.
It's
But I'm
funny.
doing good though. I'm doing good.
What's funny is for whatever reason in LA, it's been like really cold and rainy here, which is unusual for Los Angeles. And we actually had like a huge storm. I don't even know if it's over. Today it's fine. As you can see the sun coming
Oh
in the
yeah.
window. But
Wasn't there like a big storm like a week or two ago as well?
yeah,
Like I
last
saw like
week,
photos and videos of
yeah, it was like
parts of
snowing.
streets flooded yeah,
Yeah, and
streets were
there's
flooded as
flooding. Snow.
well.
So the power actually went out, and I was I think I mentioned it to you before. I have like a little power generator. It's not big enough to like power my computer or anything like that, but it's
Yeah.
like, I could power like probably like a TV and some lights and,
And
stuff
charge your
like that.
phone and
Yeah, all that
yeah.
stuff. It I left it in my car and I couldn't get to my car because
The
my
storm. Oh
well,
no.
no, not just the storm, it's the building. The electricity is out, and the only way to get to my car in the garage is through using the elevator. There's no stairs.
Oh.
There's no
Oh
stairs.
wow. How
There's
long was the
stairs.
power out for?
Not that long, like 4 or 5 hours, but like for us
Still
in LA, that's
oh,
that's
that's
a long
long,
time.
dude.
Yeah,
I mean,
long
even
time.
out here, we have rolling blackouts, but they're not like on the extreme point. We just got pushed up to stage 5 now, so we get cut like 4.5 hours of no electricity. We get cut like that, so we're only getting about 10 hours of electricity a day now, which sucks. But hey,
Yeah,
gotta make the best of it.
yeah. So all right. Oh yeah.
You, hey,
What's
have
up?
you played any games lately? We haven't spoken in a while. Have you? I know we're gonna talk about it later, but did you get to try out Atomic Heart?
I did not. I've been playing
I
Hogwarts
haven't. Yeah.
Legacy. I'm like
Mhm.
downloading it. Quite frankly, it was a lot larger than I expected. It's like 70 gigs or something like that,
Yeah,
and I was like,
it's
God
big.
damn! Between that and
I haven't had
Hogwarts
the yeah.
Legacy,
I haven't had the time to look at it yet because it's from what I can gather, it's a very fast-paced game, and I have to be in the right mood for that. Like I played a lot of
hmm
Returnal because I really enjoyed Returnal
hmm
when it came to PC. I actually feel like that game was made for PC. I don't know why they made
mm,
like it just. I played it with a controller, and playing it with a mouse and keyboard is just so much better because it's one of those games where. I mean, it's a shooter, so you just do better with mouse and keyboard. So Returnal, I've been playing a lot of that. That's fun, but that's very fast-paced. And then Atomic Heart's also fast paced, and I feel like I needed to give my brain slash eyes a rest from
hmm
like really fast paced games. So
makes
I've got
sense.
that in the back burner. I got it downloaded. I'm gonna definitely play Atomic Heart at some point. But also just been playing a lot of Hogwarts Legacy. It's more my pace at
Me
the
too.
moment.
Me too. I mean, that's
Mm.
just my style again. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about Atomic Heart.
Yeah.
Oh, I dropped my music video I directed
Yeah, you got the
last
music
week.
video out, man. It looked really good.
Thanks.
I checked it out. Yeah, it looked really good.
So I'll post probably a link in the description if people want to check it out, or if you follow me on Twitter, or Instagram, you can see it there. But anyways, let's get on to the video game news because we've got a lot. This one I know you're particularly excited about, which is
Well,
the.
not that excited anymore.
Oh, really?
I'll
Okay.
get into that while we talk about it. So we got
Okay.
Final Fantasy 16 news, right?
Yes.
They released a 2 hour demo just for the media, like it's just for the media corporation, so we don't have access to the demo.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll put it out at some point. It involved 3 boss fights.
hmm
The reason I'm not excited anymore, Dennis. Well, I'm still excited, but the reason I'm not excited is because they said that they're not even looking at a PC version. Like they're not even considering it.
That's why you're
Like
not excited.
Yeah, so because I don't have a PS5, and it's like, I mean, it'll come to PC after like a year, or but
Yeah.
the thing is, like, someone asked the developer about it, and he's like, we're not even thinking about that right now. Like, they just, I guess, fair enough, they want to get the game out and all that first. It's only next gen. It's not, as far as I know, I don't think it's going to be on the PS4. I think they're going strictly next gen on this.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, let's get into the news of it though. So it's a 2 hour demo. We've got three bosses. They seem to like put a big emphasis on the bosses, um, which these boss fights. But then I'm assuming that you can later on use them because in Final Fantasy, it's always been a thing to have these summons, right?
Mhm.
And they've always changed differently and like in Final Fantasy 15, you would kind of use you didn't get to choose when to use your summon. Like you would, like if a battle went on for long enough, it would trigger an option where you could click a button and then bring in this giant summon. And
Mhm.
the summons have always been big, and they've been getting kind of bigger and bigger. And now they're like, for this game, they're huge. They're also not called summons anymore. They're called icons, spelled
Okay.
Eikons,
Mhm.
icons, right? So they're huge. Like they're being referred to as like Attack on Titan size. Like if you
Mhm.
ever watched Attack on Titan or anything, any giant kaiju beast creature. So these summons, these icons are huge now, and apparently you're doing the boss fights with it. And one of the things that I read that makes sense. I think it's a really cool way of talking about it is that um it feels like the things that would usually be cutscenes, like the big giant battles, those are the actual battles. Like usually in the Final Fantasy, you would have these giant epic
Mhm.
cutscenes of like the big like battles and the boss fights. But now that's the actual game. Like they're not gonna do big. They're also gonna have like big cinematics, but like all those big boss fights cinematics, those are gonna be actual fights. Like you're gonna be dodging like a giant leg or going
Mhm.
under like a wing, or like you actually gotta like have to like go around with that, which is really cool. Um, so yeah, they definitely seem to be focusing very hard on that. Like Garuda, which is a 20-meter tall bird-like creature that wields the power of wind. I know Garuda, but they're all the thing is I know all these summons or icons, if you will. Sorry,
Mhm.
but they're huge now. There's a couple favorites in there, like they're gonna have Ifrit. Ifrit is the fire one. They're always gonna have to have Ifrit, but they're saying the combat is really good. Now in Final Fantasy 15, I enjoyed the combat. A lot of people didn't enjoy it because it's the first time they kind of went away from turn-based or active turn-based because they either had turn-based games where it's like you wait your turn, you play it, or they had active turn-based, which is still you got to make a choice, but
Mhm.
instead of like waiting your turn, you got to wait till your bar fills up, which is active turn-based was a lot more fun. Like Final Fantasy VII, the original was active turn-based. Um, so they're going more. I don't want to say hack and slash with it, but they're going more with like a real time combat system, which is what they
Mhm.
did with the 20 Final Fantasy 15. That's what they did with that. I enjoyed it. Like I said, other people didn't, but it seems like they've been polishing that combat system to the point where it's now. I mean, the guy who's doing the combat director is Suzuki. Ryoto Suzuki, who is well known for Devil May Cry 5 and Dragon's Dogma, which are two very different games, to be honest.
Mhm.
But if they're kind of relating the combat to feeling as good as Devil May Cry, and if that's
Mhm.
true, then that means a lot of combos or like the attacks, like the combat has to flow for it to be related to that, you know. Dragon's Dogma, I didn't enjoy the combat too much in there. Well, it was cool, but it was more about like mounting dragons and
Mhm.
um, almost like Shadow of the Colossus s kind of fights, if you will, but on a smaller scale. But yeah, so man, like I said, if I had a PS5, I'd be so stoked for this. But I know for a fact that I think I'm gonna wait longer than a year for it to come to PC
Mhm.
because like I said, they're not even considering the PC release. Um, but it looks really good, man, and it looks beautiful. I like the setting. They're going for like a medieval kind of fantasy based setting. I think they said all the voice actors are British because they kind of wanted to have that feel of
Mhm.
like medieval fantasy. You know what I mean? Or well, dark fantasy, if you will. So they're all British actors as well. Um, Yeah, so yeah, they still call it's a shame. They're still calling them summons. A lot of people like me, I'm not used to calling them icons, but you're able to like flick through your icons through a list and then you can summon them differently. You could fire a blast of phoenix flames before quickly swapping to Garuda to launch your target into the air. So you're using these like summons a lot more in the combat as well, which is really cool and like comboing between their like elements and stuff. I like that. I'm gonna avoid this game like there's no tomorrow because the best thing about any Final Fantasy game is always the story. and we haven't spoken much about the story, but I know it's going to be good because they're always good. Sometimes they're a bit like Final Fantasy 15. They had to add the story is only really good if you have all the extras. If you have episode 1, 2, and 3 of like individual character episodes that gives their backstory and what happens afterwards, and there's even a one where you get to play as the bad guy essentially and kind of see his point of view. But so before the DLCs, the story was a bit dry in Final Fantasy 15. They try to capitalize on the whole Final Fantasy 7 issue of like, we're gonna make this character fall in love with someone, and then we're gonna kill this character so you feel bad about it. Except they only showed her like once or twice. So when she died, everyone was like, oh well, we don't care about her. We don't know her. You know what I mean? They didn't even like they didn't put a lot of effort into her. But they after the release they added more cutscenes and stuff. I think they learned their lesson. We haven't heard much about this story, but the setting seems a lot more mature, a lot more like grittier, and I would say like even darker. You know, they're keeping it. Final Fantasy's always kind of like been. I'm not explaining like not like no gore, like gore free, like it's not like this seems like it might have an element of gore, not gore, but like you'll see blood, and you don't really see blood in Final Fantasy games, you know. So I like that. It seems a lot grittier, but yeah. It's looking real good, which is why I'm really upset that it's not coming to PC, at least not anytime soon. But yeah, that's all I can say about that for now. I hope the demo comes out to the public though. Like that'd be cool.
I doubt it. Seems like a 2-hour thing just for media and for them to like write and stuff and talk about.
It was just it was just combat and bosses, so you don't get to see any of the RPG mechanics like leveling, what the skill like how like what's the skill tree kind of look like, you know what I mean? There never used to be a skill tree, but Final Fantasy 15 added one, so I'm assuming there will be now as well. But yeah, so no, it's looking real good. The only thing I don't like is the fact that the main guy is called Clive. Like, for anybody listening out there that is a Clive, there's nothing wrong with your name. I just don't see Clive fitting into like a medieval. Like, could you imagine like King Arthur is chilling with the Knights of the Round Table, and he's like, Sir Clive, thank you. I'm so glad you're here, Sir Clive. I just don't see it, man. But hey, Clive is what it is. One of the characters is named after me. At least that's how I'm taking it. So I like that. One of the characters is called Joshua, the little boy. I do like that. Yeah. Anyway, so I think the game is actually coming out soon, if I'm not mistaken, or like in a month or two. But yeah, man, oh man,
you're gonna have to wait.
If there was a way to rent a PS5, Dennis, that's what I would do. If I could rent a PS5.
You know, they're readily available finally. Like people can buy them.
Yeah.
People like there's no like, black market or waiting list or trying to get. They're readily like if I want to go buy one, I can just go buy one right now if I wanted.
I saw one. I saw one today, dude. I literally saw like an out there. It's difficult to get them out here as well. I saw one today, but we're paying way more. I think we're paying like $600 to $700 for it. Because we get paid. We have like 20% import tax on electronics, which is crazy. But yeah, so all in all, this Final Fantasy 16 is shaping up to be pretty good. If you were disappointed in Final Fantasy 15, this one looks like it might be able to pull you back in, which is cool.
All right, so we also had a Sony State of Play last week. We can't go over everything because there's a lot, but let's just talk about the big stuff. The biggest thing I think was like Rocksteady. They had a extended video showing off Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Because remember they had delayed this game, and maybe a little breathing room between this game and what was considered. I didn't personally play it. I'm just saying from what people had said, a disappointing Gotham Knights. Maybe that's the right move to kind of let people, even though look, it's two different developers. You know how it is. Things to get us. Remember the whole like. First of all, Guardians of the Galaxy. Remember the game came out after the Avengers game, like maybe a few months after, and it was very well received from critics, but it just didn't do very well.
Similar IP. So like I agree. It's because it's DC. If you had to release this DC game right after the other DC, I agree. Here's why I didn't even play Gotham Knights is because I saw a video of a comparison between Arkham Knight and what's the new one called? Arkham Knights, or what was the new game called? I'm already blanking on it.
Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights.
Yeah, Gotham Knights. The previous one was Arkham Knight, and you see like the side by sides, and the Arkham Knight game that came out a long time ago has
On an
way
older
more
system.
on an older system. Not only does it look better, but it actually just it has more physics. It has more it has more of everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't even touch that game. I might get it one day just for the story, but the gameplay looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
This looks good though, and I think that this looks really good. The Suicide game. To be fair, this is the one that I've been excited to. I've been excited before the time even. I was more excited for the Suicide game than I was for Gotham Knights, just because it looks better. You know what I mean?
I mean, I like the setup of
yeah.
Gotham Knights in terms of concept. It's just
the story the story in theory should be really good. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I was very excited when those trailers came out, and then the reviews started coming out, and people were just saying, "Yeah, it's not that great." So.
Hey man, get it on sale one day. Play it for the story,
Yeah,
and then pretend the combat never happened. You know?
Probably. All right. Capcom, they had revealed 3 new Street Fighter 6 characters. I mean, they're not new, but I mean, just revealed for the game. Zangief, Lily, and Cammy for Street Fighter 6. I'm most interested in this kind of created character open world aspect that they're doing. So this might be the first Street Fighter I'm like into, depending on the reviews and what people say about it. But I mean, look, Street Fighter 2, when that came out, I was like obsessed with it. I played it like all the time. I went to the arcades when it came out on Sega Genesis. Like I was just playing that thing all the time. Since then, you know, I just haven't really been into like combat games as much in terms of like 1v1.
You want to know what actually got me into Street Fighter as a kid? It was actually a movie I watched that had nothing to do with it. And it's just there's a slight moment. I think the movie was about these guys that were breaking into their like high school to change their SAT scores, I think. And it was like a group of kids, like it was either college or high school, but they were breaking in
familiar.
to like
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, to like change their scores or whatever. And they're like a ragtag team of whoever. Like they kind of meet each other. The one guy is this Asian guy, and he's a stoner, a hardcore stoner. Like when they find him as well, he's just high as a kite. And so they ask him like about like what he wants to be one day. They're like, hey, like, cause they're all just sitting around. They're like, hey, what do you want to be one day when you grow up? And he's like, I used to play this game called Street Fighter, and there used to be this character called Blanca, and what he would do is he would actually eat the face off of the enemy once he's defeated him. So everyone was like, oh, so you want to be a video game developer one day? He said, no, I want to be Blanca. And that was the funniest thing I heard in my life. And then after that day, I went and I was like, who is Blanca? What is Street Fighter? I got into it. It was really cool. From the last footage we saw of Street Fighter 6, I mean, with the character creation and all that, they did show us some combat, and it looks really good. But then again, Street Fighter 5 looked really good as well, and Street Fighter 5 was a really good game.
Yeah,
I knew Cammy was going to come back, though.
Yeah. Or what else?
Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate.
That's big. That's big. I mean, I thought the game was out already because it's been on Steam for the longest time, or I've seen it around, but I guess it's maybe just been early access.
Probably, because it says the releases for PlayStation 5 and PC.
And PC, yeah.
Yeah. It was August 31st.
That is a huge IP, though. There's like, I mean, it's a very old IP, but I know there's a lot of people out there that's really stoked for Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty iconic RPG. I mean, remember, it was BioWare back in the day.
I mean, Baldur's Gate 2 came out like probably 20 years ago or something. You know what I mean? It's high time that IP gets in the game.
Yeah, the Baldur's Gate 2 came out in 2000. The first Baldur's Gate was 1998, which was, you know, not that far. Which was, you know, like 98 2 years. 2 years, 2 years. That was by BioWare, and then the second game came out 2 years. Yeah, came out 2 years later.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
I mean, it's no longer developed by BioWare.
But yeah, we also saw a bit more of Resident Evil 4, the trailer. We got some Bungie still working on Destiny 2, which is like I'm kind of over Destiny 2. Like I've played enough of it. I think it's like I played more of it because it went free to play at a certain point. It went free to play. Well, except not the expansions. You got to buy those, but the base game is free to play. Still is free to play. I'm pretty sure. This is a great game, but yeah. So like I don't have any hype for it. But for those who are still playing Destiny 2, at least you not get to know, hey, DLC is still coming. They're still working on the game. They're still supporting the game.
Yeah.
So that's always good.
And then let's talk about the PSVR2, because during the state of play they showed off some games, but also the PSVR2 finally launched. I believe last week. A lot of the reviews came in. The overall consensus basically has been, and I think we kind of already knew this. Hardware is very cool. It's high-end stuff. It's very comfortable. It's easy to use, unlike the original PSVR. But most of the games are just enhanced versions of games you've already played. Like, if you're brand new to VR, then this thing is great, right? If you've never played Quest, you never played PC VR, and you already own a PlayStation 5, then plopping down that extra $550 plus whatever the game is not as bad, right? Because now there's all these games you've never played before, and they're pretty good versions of them, and they're definitely higher quality than like what you can play on the Quest 2, not counting Airlink and the PC.
Look,
so that's cool.
PSVR2, if you have a PS5 and you get the PSVR2, the investment is worth it, because they're not going to come out with a PSVR3 anytime soon. This PSVR2 is going to last a while. You know what I mean? Like the first PSVR that came out, like that was quite limited in its capabilities. You know what I mean? And that didn't last long either. I think they knew that when they brought out the PSVR. I think they knew that was going to get people to come in, and they knew that they were going to do better with the next one. Because this PSVR 2, looking at the specs, man, I don't see anything else. Well, maybe the Quest 3, depending on its price point. You know what I mean? It's hitting a pretty smooth price point considering what it's capable of. You know what I mean? If you have a PS5, that is.
Yeah. Yeah,
so it's definitely worth the investment if you have a PS5. You'll use that thing for 4 years.
If you already have a PS5, you're interested in VR, and you haven't really played anything else, because the thing is a lot of so they have like the Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, but it's like enhanced edition. They have the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners game. They have
enhanced, yeah.
They have a lot of the games that if you already own a Quest, you probably already have played or could have played before. The only real game that like you can't play anywhere else is the Horizon Call of the Mountain, which has gotten really good reviews. It just the only complaint that they said was that it's kind of short, and like the climbing aspect is a little, like you have to do it a lot, and it's not as fun as the combat. But like overall,
the combat looks great, man. Yeah. Bow and arrow, like the thing is, it feels good too. It's a good motion. Yeah. You know what I mean? Pulling back the bow, pulling back the string, releasing it. It feels good. You know what I mean? When it comes to VR, I like things where it's like I have to do the motion, and I feel like Beat Saber feels good because you feel like you are flinging a lightsaber around. You know what I mean? Same reason that the Darth Vader game was fun. Like the motion is what makes it fun. So like, pulling your arm back, doing the motion of pulling it looks like a lot of fun. I can get behind that. They need to make a bow and arrow game for VR, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's one good game, solid game. It's not even like, from what the reviews say, it's not a great game. That it's just it's a good game. It's something that has a lot of potential, and hopefully they can do that with more properties that you can only play on PlayStation. It's just right now. Yeah, like to play the same games you've already played but just slightly better, it's not worth it. But people have been saying good things about the Gran Turismo VR. I think it's Gran Turismo 7 VR game that's been getting good reviews.
Yeah. So VR racing and VR flying is really good. Those things do work out really well, I know Dorian didn't have a good time with the Squadrons game, the Star Wars Squadrons game. I still want to try it out though. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, because it's you have to.
You got to use a controller still. You know what I mean?
Also, the motion sickness for those type of games like driving and flying. Flying less so. Flying is a little more. Driving though can be quite motion heavy.
Well, like Formula One, Gran Turismo, that can those turns, man. You feel like you might just get whiplash just from looking, Yeah.
So there are actually a lot of launch games for the PSVR 2. It's just 99% of them are games that you could already play before.
Yeah. And for anybody who does have a Quest, just remember that games are incredibly cheaper on Steam as opposed to the Oculus Store. Because you use Airlink. Like, dude, I got like Half-Life Alyx. I got that for like nothing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like most of the games, at least for me with my regional pricing, most of the games on Steam are going for like $10. Like the ones that are going for like $30 to $40 on the Quest, they're going for like $10 on Steam. And I still play them on the Quest. I just use
Airlink.
Airlink and
Yeah.
Virtual Desktop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Have you
Yeah.
started
Steam
Half-Life Alyx
VR.
yet?
I did actually. I started
I
with a
love
friend.
that game.
Yeah, no, it's been really good. I need to get into it myself because I kind of did it with a friend and we were taking turns, and that kind of takes you out of the immersion.
Yeah.
Like, it's better to just sit down, do it yourself. But I've been using the VR a lot more lately because with the power cuts, if it's daytime, if I got light, I can just use the VR while I've got no electricity.
Yeah.
So it's been my go-to to use. Before we move on from the state of play, I do want to mention the Naruto X Boruto game. At first I was like, oh man, another one? Seriously? But then I found out that it's not another one. In actual fact, they're taking all the previous games, and it's not a collection either. I think they're like putting them all into one game, which is cool because it's like every game that's come out. It's been like, look, Naruto is long. That's like we're talking like hundreds upon hundreds of episodes of content. You know what I mean? So each like game that came out was like a section of the anime. Like it wasn't from start to finish kind of thing. So it seems like they're adding all of those all of those games are getting wrapped up into like one game, which is quite cool. And the graphics do look a bit nicer as well. The combat's always been fun. It's a good combat game. Just figured I'd mention that. I might actually pick this up because I've wanted to get the whole collection, but I was like, man, I don't want to have to like go through three or four different games. If it's all in one game, it's a lot easier, Yeah. And also like remastered and like redone a lot of the stuff. So that looks good. That's the only other thing that caught my attention from the state of play. That and the really weird project called Humanity from the Tetris Effect. If anybody's listening, look up a project called Humanity from the guys who did Tetris Effect. It makes zero sense. I don't know what's going on. It looks really weird. There are people floating. There are hundreds and thousands. There's like hundreds of people just walking around. It's weird, man. It's definitely a puzzle-like game. They're relating it to Lemmings. If it's like Lemmings, I might try it out. I did. Big fan of Lemmings. Good fun.
Speaking of VR, there's also some rumors and leaks about the Quest 3. Everyone's kind of thinking it's gonna be released the end of this year because that's usually when Quest does their reveals.
Facebook Connect or
yeah.
Well, Meta Connect, I guess.
Yeah. They do those in, I think, usually October, and then they'll release the thing in a month later, which I like. I like these announcements, and then like, hey, wait a month, and then you do a month of hype, and then you release it. Supposedly, the interesting thing is that it's going to be thinner and lighter, more powerful, but it's going to cost more than the Quest 2. Yeah, which I don't mind as much. So they're saying like $500 versus the 300, 400. I mean, 300 was kind of like the low base model, and they had the 400 like extra storage one
with the strap and stuff. Yeah.
So now they're saying 500 possibly for this one. I don't mind as much. The reason why I'm so down on critical of the PSVR2 is that it's not a standalone. You're paying $550 on top of the PS5 that you had to pay for.
It's like $1,000 for the entire setup, technically. You know what I mean?
So the PSVR2, the headset that you're buying, is not doing the computations, right? It's doing the projection, yes, and it's doing the projection and getting everything so that you can see it in VR. But it's your PS5 that's actually doing all the number crunching, and so like really, it's $1,000, VR system
essentially, yeah.
Which I mean, that
was the same issue with the Vive as well, I guess, because you had to have a big ass gaming PC to go with the Vive,
Yeah. Well, that's why the Quest and the Quest 2 are the most popular VR systems in the world, right? I forgot what the stat is, but like I don't know if it's like 70 or 80% of
it's huge
VR users on
specifically
Steam
the Quest 2
are using the Quest. You know what I mean? It's not even people using PC VR aren't using PC VR system like headset systems. They're using the Quest 2.
Dude, I would be willing to pay up to $600 for a Quest 3 if it's worth it. I mean, $500 is a sweet spot. If they can hit that, that's a sweet spot because that's basically what the same price is like the PSVR2, except like you said, it's standalone, so you don't need a
Yeah.
machine powering it.
Yeah.
Although you can if you want, you can do AirLink, Um, I like the idea of it being thinner because I will say that like that's my biggest issue with the Quest is that they don't have the licensing rights to the crown. Sony patented the crown design, which is why the Quest legally can't do a crown. You usually have to get a third party one. I got one from a company called Bobo VR.
Hmm.
I guess if the company's small enough, they won't get sued. But the crown is better. But the thing is, because when you wear the crown, the Quest kind of becomes lighter because the load gets distributed better on the
Yes.
head. So when you just have it normal with the strap, the front of your face gets heavy and like you don't really notice it until you start doing the like very physical taxing.
Hmm.
Like I downloaded one of those workout apps for my PSVR2 because I'm trying to be more healthy, and it was a really good workout app. But dude, I felt like my neck was getting sore from like the weight of the VR
Yeah.
headset.
Well,
And, like,
imagine it.
swinging my head
Imagine
around.
if you
Yeah.
had the Quest 1, because the Quest 2 is actually considerably lighter than the Quest 1. So
Man, I remember the Quest one. That was
yeah, it
you
was
guys,
bigger,
there was
bulkier, and heavier.
the Office had one, right? Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the Office had one. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to the Quest 3, man. It's also their hand tracking is getting really good. I don't know if you've done any of
Yeah.
their hand tracking games.
Yeah.
Their hand tracking is getting real good as well, which is cool for like older people or people who aren't really used to gaming. It's a lot easier. Like I'm trying to get my dad into VR, right? Just to keep his brain working and stuff. And he struggles to kind of use the controllers, but the hand tracking is simple. You just
Yeah.
put your hand out and you grab something. You know what I mean? So it's I do like the hand tracking. I think it makes it a lot easier for people who aren't used to gaming or aren't used to that kind of joysticks or like a lot of people who don't game, they really struggle with using two joysticks at the same time.
Yeah.
Like really, they really struggle to use like joysticks and stuff, or like looking and moving at the same time is
Yeah.
a struggle for some
Yeah,
people.
because
You know what I mean?
one is for moving, one is for looking. So it's
Yeah.
a
So like a lot of people like who aren't used to that kind of can't wrap their head around that. So that's the nice thing about the hand tracking, and I can only imagine that the cameras are going to be better on the Quest 3, so the hand tracking is going to be better as well. The Quest has a lot of cool functions, man. I like their office space thing where you can link your keyboard and your mouse and
Yeah.
keyboard to it, and you can actually work in VR space, which is cool. I like the fact that you can. I don't know if you know this, but you can add a couch to your
yes
VR to your setup. Yeah, you
to
can
your
like
Guardian.
click
Yeah.
yeah, to your Guardian, you can add a couch. That's also really cool. I do like. I mean, I'm a big fan of the PSVR2 design and the specs, but if the Quest 3 can match that, then it's
Yeah.
obviously the
Well,
superior headset.
yeah. I mean
Well, yeah,
no
maybe
matter
not
what,
match it, but
yeah, the specs won't be, but like if they make it lighter and they said supposedly twice as powerful as the Quest 2, the Quest 2
yeah,
which is decently powered, but if they can make it twice as powerful, that'd be pretty good. Also, they said they're going to mix in a lot of AR stuff, mixed reality stuff that the Quest Pro kind of has been on the forefront of.
like the workspace kind of stuff.
Yeah. So
I watched a review. I watched a review of a guy who was using the Pro headset for a while, and there's a couple things where, like, he was like using it practically. Like, how would you use this thing practically, right? Like, if you're like on a plane, he says it works very well on a plane because because all the extra screen things. Like, he takes his laptop out and then he has all these extra screens in AR because that's just how it works, right? But then he said on other things like buses or trains, it doesn't work. Like the tracking gets lost because of all the
Yeah.
motion in the background.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So it really is more of one of those like closed quarters things. Like you got to kind of be indoors to use it, if anything else,
Yeah.
But like that's the selling point of the Pro. So I hope that they bring a lot more of that AR to the Quest 3.
Yeah.
That'd
hope
be
so.
good.
I think literally just being lighter, twice as more powerful. That alone for me is 500 is still worth it. So
Well, do you throw in AirPlay or AirLink and it's solid? Because look, like currently the Quest 2 is able to go up to 120 frames a second. Not on its own, but if you do AirLink, AirLink or Air whatever it is, you can choose the 120 hertz refresh rate, and which is a lot nicer for things like Beat Saber and stuff. I actually bought Beat Saber on Steam just so I could mod it because that's the thing is like modding. You can't really mod games on the Quest itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, let's move on to this next topic, which we can talk about. We briefly talked about it in the beginning, which is Hogwarts Legacy sells
Yeah.
$850 million worth of units, with 12 million units sold in the first 2 weeks. And that's February. This is posted February 24th, so that's like a week behind. So I'm sure it sold a lot more. It was like the number one.
It did better than Fallout 4, man. That's for early access. It did better than Fallout 4.
Yeah,
That says a
I
lot.
think like the Twitch streams are like the highest ever for game concurrent streams. Look, there was a lot of controversy with the game. We talked about it in our last episode. So if you want to hear our thoughts on that and why we play it, but also support people who don't want to play it, and support people that choose to. What I don't support is the whole like
Shaming people for buying it.
shaming people for playing it, or shaming people for buying it, or whatever. I don't support any of that. But if you want to say the reasons why you don't want to play the game and why other people you think shouldn't, I think that's fine too. I think just people cross the line into that whole like trying to like single and targetedly harass people.
It's so weird because the thought process behind it is like J.K. Rowling spouts a lot of hatred. So it's like, we're going to spout a lot of hatred to people buying the game. Like, that's the thing that didn't make sense to me. I was like, aren't you kind of becoming the person you're fighting here? You know what I mean? In a sense.
Yeah,
Also,
there was like
I
that
say the
even
best,
happened.
dude.
That even happened
like-
to her herself. I'm not defending her, but people
I hate her, by the way. I actually genuinely hate her. I think she's a piece of shit.
But people like saying they're gonna like murder her or like
that's
like
extreme, man.
like dude, how are you doing anything for your cause by saying stuff like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also like you're not going to follow through with that, and even if you did, you'd be like, I think the one thing that I stand by the most, and it's the most heartbreaking way to say this, and I said it in the last video, say it again, is that J.K. Rowling is going to go to sleep tonight rich, and she's going to wake up tomorrow morning rich. Completely unaffected by all of this. There is no amount of money and power in this world that'll ever make her feel responsible for her words and actions. Like there's just like I'm like it sucks because I feel the pain that people are going through. I understand the boycott, but there is nothing anyone can do in this world that's gonna make her go, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. She's not gonna care. She's got way too much money to care. You know what I mean? It's the sad, brutal truth about all of this is that the boycott would only have affected the developers, but as we can see, the boycott, unfortunately for those that really weren't happy with it, it backfired, and the game actually, because of the controversy, the game sold really well.
That and it's a good game. The one thing, the one thing I also
it is a really good game. Yeah.
What was not happy about was this. Look, there are several outlets out there that were against the game, and I like I said, I'm totally fine with that opinion. My thing is, if that's your opinion and you're against it, don't review it. Don't review it. What happened that I don't like is there were some bad faith reviews. There's the bad faith reviews out there that either be like, oh, we played it and it was just like okay. It was like, trust me, if you either take J.K. Rowling out of this or you slap a different IP, let's say you slap a fresh coat of paint on it, it's like a Game of Thrones game, which I would absolutely love, right? And obviously you would change some of the narrative stuff to fit it, but what I'm talking about is the gameplay mechanics and all that stuff. You would not be saying that. You're only saying that because you don't like J.K. Rowling, you don't like what she said, and that's totally fine. But I think talking about reviewing the game in that manner, like there was a lot of reviews that were like saying all the stuff and blah blah blah, 1 star. Like okay, it's just like mediocre. It's look, let's be honest. It's not a mediocre game. It's a very good game. Maybe you don't like it genuinely, that's fine, but I would say a good portion of the reviews that did come out were in bad faith. You just
sure, man.
Like I say, don't review it. You don't support it, that's fine. Don't review it and just say so. Don't come out with a review being like, well, it's just mediocre or oh, it's not very good. It's like, trust me. Yeah, I've been playing games for a long time. It's not a mediocre game. It's just not.
No, it's. I will say. I mean, I'm going to say something else first before I say what I was going to say now, which is one. You said something last time in the video that I didn't even consider, which is so true, which is that everyone that is so ready to spout hatred and like chastise people for playing the game, they're like, how could you support her? And they're typing it on an iPhone that was probably made by a child or somebody that tried to kill themselves while making the phone. You know what I mean? Like it's a little there's a little bit of hypocrisy there. But moving on, what I was gonna say is I would give this Hogwarts a solid 8 out of 10. For me, it's not a 10 out of 10. And the only reason I don't consider it, the only reason I don't consider the game amazing is because Elden Ring set the bar so in my head and in my heart, it set the bar so high, Dennis. If this game came out before Elden Ring, I would have given it a 10 out of 10 because it's really good. Like it is a really good game. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely way above mediocre. I don't really consider it a 10 out of 10 game, but I consider it an 8 to an 8.5, which is, I think it's good. Like I get very critical about ratings. I do ratings the way IMDb does it, very brutally, you know? So like 8 to an 8.5 is solid for me. It's a fun game. Here's the thing, man. Like it's got nothing to really do with the movies. There's a couple like Easter eggs. It's its whole own story, its whole own system. A couple of Easter eggs from the movies here or there. Gameplay is great. I like the room of requirement. I really like the beasts, collecting the beasts and stuff, and I enjoy that aspect quite a lot.
What's funny is I've never read any of the books. I've watched the movies, but I'm not like a diehard Harry Potter fan. But I learned more about the Harry Potter universe or the Hogwarts universe in this game than I ever did watching the movies. Like, this room of requirement and the beasts and this and that and like walking around the castle. Like, so that's kind of what the whole thing is. It got me, let's just say, it got me more into the universe than the movies, and obviously I didn't read the books, like than the movies did, because I was just like, okay, so this is what the world is supposed to be like. Look, I would personally, I haven't finished it yet. I think I'm about 70% done, judging from how far I am, because I'm like 20 something hours into it. I would, at my right now, depends on how it ends up, I'd give it probably between an 8.5 to like an 8.8. You know, that's kind of like where my range is right now for the game.
I'm feeling the same way.
My only complaint about it really is that there are some repetitive tasks that you have to do. And then also...
almost too much side quests as well. Like there's look, there's nothing stopping you. There's nothing forcing you to do the side quests. And the important side quests you'll know because they have a different icon that shows up on like your quest thing. You know what I mean? But a lot of I enjoyed the side quests at first, but then eventually it's like overwhelming and you feel like you have to do them.
And there's a lot.
And a lot of them are its own individual original kind of quest line. It's just there's so many of them, you know. And there are a couple quests that are a bit too similar. I agree with you. 8.5 to 8.8. That's what I would give it at so far. You know.
Yeah. The one thing I think that combat's actually surprisingly fun. The one thing I would say though is there's two things that aren't quite obviously Elden Ring's like god tier game, but like the two things it can't compare is the level design. The level design inside Hogwarts is pretty cool. But once you step outside of there, everything's very samey and just,
it's just grasslands.
I don't know where I'm going. They all look the same. They kind of like, you get lost really easy. You need a map in that thing, right? Because you just have no idea. Like in Elden Ring, there's very distinct worlds and lands that you can kind of like, this looks like
all
this.
Separate,
Yeah, there's landmark here. This is over here. Okay, you kind of know where you are in Hogwarts. Once you get outside of Hogwarts or Hogsmeade, you have no idea where you are. You're just like...
It's just the English countryside everywhere you look. It's just rolling grass hills, some trees, and I agree. There's no biomes or anything like that. But to be fair, there's still an entire section of the map that I haven't even explored yet. Like the map's actually massive. I didn't think it was that big, but if you zoom out all the way, it's actually huge. Like the it goes down like south way more than what you would think. There's a whole other area there I haven't seen yet. But I'm enjoying the game. I'm enjoying the character. I'm enjoying like the friends. I became friends with Sebastian. I know he's a Slytherin, and he's like apparently like a bit of a naughty boy, but it's like he's got his reasons. I like Sebastian. He's my guy. I'm happy with Sebastian. Also, for those who, this is not a spoiler, but for those who want to play the game or are playing the game, if you want to learn any of the dark arts, The only way you're gonna know that is by becoming friends with Sebastian
Yeah.
and doing his quests. And I'm not gonna say anything beyond that, but if you want to learn the dangerous spells, then you got to become friends with Sebastian.
Yeah. I am friends with him, and I am on my way to learning. All right, let's move on. We've got Nintendo Direct happen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The Metro Prime Remastered, which people are praising heavily. The big thing is obviously the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Which they revealed is going to retail for $69.99. So now we have Nintendo jumping up to that $70 price point, which is the first thing.
By the way, that makes no sense because every other gaming company is like, we're spending more money on it. It's a next gen game. You're building this game on a 6 or 7 year old console. You have no right to be saying, hey, listen, we're going to charge you more because it takes more effort. Bullshit. There's no way that, look, this game is amazing. I can already tell it's going to be amazing because the previous game was amazing. But there's no way that this game deserves to be more expensive than the original Breath of the Wild when it looks pretty much identical. I mean, different, but it's got the same kind of effect, you know what I mean? And the combat's going to be, like, all of it's going to be the same, which is what you want, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know what I mean? But $70 for a game that's still running on I don't know how old the console is, but it's old, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like a 2016. It is about like 4 or 5 years old. The system itself, man, I get it. If you're making a big next gen, it's a huge risk as well. So like when you're taking out new IP, so understand $70 to $80 for games sometimes. But this is, that this is gonna sell. They know that this is gonna sell. There is no reason for the only reason they're charging $70 is because they know they can get away with it. You know what I mean? That's the only reason.
I feel like if they keep it with just this game, I can kind of understand. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is the one time they've got a game that almost everyone's going to buy. And so just for this one game, $70. But
I guess it makes sense too, because the biggest sellers on the Nintendo Switch are actually the Pokemon games, which is run by Niantic. And I don't think Nintendo doesn't own them. Like the Pokemon companies, it's all own separate thing.
yeah.
So they make money because, look, they do make money because people buy the Switch to play the Pokemon games. It's the only place you can play them. So they do make money that way. But other than that, like, those Pokemon games outperform the Mario games and stuff as well. Kirby did pretty good. But this is their box office hit. You know what I mean? This is their bread and butter. Is this?
Yeah.
Well, now at least it's the Zelda games.
Yeah. Metro Prime Remastered is out, getting a lot of rave reviews on it, basically saying like it's everything like the original but better.
Just better, yeah.
Apparently, with the recent Dead Space remake and now with this Metroid Prime Remastered, like this is kind of the way to do these remasters.
It's already out.
Yeah, it's already out.
It's already out. The physical copies were out a couple days ago.
Yeah. The Advance Wars 1 and 2 boot camp release date was revealed for April 21st, which is not that far away. Let me see here.
They did. I was actually excited about this until I did more research on it. But they did announce that the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games are coming to the Nintendo Switch Online. Because we know that they did the NES, they did the SNES, and they did the N64. Like they brought back all the, like, if you pay for Nintendo Switch Online, if you pay the subscription fee, you then get access to all their like old classics. So I got really excited about the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games because I was like, man, I have so many games that I love on the Game Boy Advance. And then I realized all those games aren't owned by Nintendo, so they probably aren't going to be added. For one, all the old Pokemon games. Like I thought this meant, you can play all the older Pokemon games on your Nintendo Switch now. Nope. It's only Nintendo games. But it's just from that, like, Nintendo, the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance. But it's Nintendo-owned IP. Who knows? Hopefully they'll do some other games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the list now, and these are all
Nintendo.
pretty much just Nintendo-owned. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Elden Ring finally. We knew it was coming, but they officially announced their DLC From Software officially announced that the Elden Ring DLC expansion called Shadow of the Erd Tree. The only thing they released was the title, the logo, and then some concept art where you see the Erd Tree all burnt down. So apparently this takes place after, You know, it's not a prequel or a side quill
Okay.
or whatever. It from that picture you can tell, okay, this is after what you did in
Yeah.
Elden Ring. And then there's this girl in a white dress, lady in this white dress with long flowing hair. She almost looks like Galadriel from Lord of the Rings.
She
She's
does actually, yeah.
Yeah, she's riding her own. What are those called in the game? It wasn't like a horse. It was like I forgot what it was.
It's that spurred horse thing. What was
Yeah,
it? You're
yeah.
right.
It has
It's
the
the
horns,
same
but can
thing.
jump. Yeah,
Yeah, it has this. It's the same as the mount that you have in the game. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, that's what
Except
she's
that
riding.
one looks alive and not like a spirit summoned. You know, that one looks like it's actually still alive.
Yeah, so just one piece of concept art, the logo and the name. No details, not when it's going to be released. You know, what's going to be in it, blah blah blah. That's just it. But anyways, everyone, this is the first kind of real. I mean, they've already released like these like extra add-on stuff like the Coliseum multiplayer update and fixes here and there, and I think they fleshed out a few side quest lines here and there, but nothing major. This is like the first real, and maybe last.
Yeah.
If they stick with the whole Elden Ring is like that's it, you know, thing. This might be the last piece of Elden Ring lore
I'm
or content
surprised.
that we'll ever see.
I mean, I'm surprised we're getting any right now. Oh, that they've even announced any, because I figured they would have been completely like all hands on Armored Core 6, which is looking great, by the way. But because it's like From Software, like they're a big studio, but in terms of like people working there, they're not as big as the other companies. So I figured they would have been more focused on that. Excited to get DLC because I've been waiting for DLC for a long time. I'm assuming it's going to be like, well, I'm hoping it's going to be just a bunch of like bosses that they bring in, like, or maybe it'll be like a little new area too. That'd be nice. But as long as it's got boss fights, I'm happy. I do think we're going to get an Elden Ring too. I know they didn't say that, but that game made so much money. Even if it takes 10 years, we're definitely going to get an Elden Ring too. Even if it means that they have to summon George R.R. Martin back from like the dead and get him to write more lore, I think they're going to do it.
All right, let's move on. Atomic Heart was released. It was released for all the systems, but also it was on Game Pass, which
Oh, did you hear about the drama around this game, by the way?
there's drama over every game nowadays.
This,
What drama are
you-
you talking about?
Ukraine is boycotting the game
Yeah, I heard
for
about that.
obvious reasons, you know,
Yeah,
which makes sense. Like, I mean, that makes more sense to me than the Hogwarts Legacy one, to be fair. Even here's like it's the developers are in a tricky position because it's like everyone are like the developers are Russian, and it's like they haven't said that they're like against the war. I'm like, well, if they do, they'll get killed. You know,
yeah.
they don't exactly have the freedom to be like we stand with Ukraine. If they do say anything besides we support Russia, they'll just get killed. You know what I mean? Like people have been getting killed in the streets for like protesting the war and stuff. Anyway, so that makes sense. A lot of people are protesting or like boycotting the game in an attempt to not put.
Like I said, if
towards
that what you
Russia.
want to do, I personally think it's pointless. You're talking about developers who started making this game well before the invasion. I'm totally
Also,
against
war is expensive. Dennis, war is expensive. Even if this game racks in like a couple 100 million like copies, that's a droplet of water towards like war funds. You know what I mean? Like military is expensive.
Yeah, and then the developers had nothing to do with the war. They're just trying to make their game.
Exactly. Oh, and everybody besides that, apparently everybody really. This is the same issue that we had with the last Resident Evil game. Everybody really wants to screw one of the characters. Apparently,
God.
people really like these robot ladies, which, to be
God.
fair, they have incredible proportions.
Yeah.
Unrealistic. Some might even
I
say.
have not seen that, but the reviews have been
Yeah.
mixed positive. Like they like it, but there's issues. That's kind of like the feeling I get. Like I heard the story's not very good. That's just from all the reviews that I've read, that the story isn't great. The world is kind of interesting, cool. Definitely taken a lot out of the from the BioShock pages.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, definitely.
From both the world and how the combat itself. It looks very interesting. I I'm gonna download it. I'm gonna play it. Honestly, there's two reasons why I haven't played it yet. One, obviously, I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy a lot, so I kind of don't like jumping from game to game, especially if the games are like not that they're similar, but they're not. It's not like I'm playing Hogwarts Legacy and then jumping to play
They're both long,
Beat Saber
like
or something like that. You know,
they're time sinks. They're both time sinks.
Yeah,
it's like you can't hop between playing World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy Online.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but you'd have to literally have no life.
Yeah.
To be able to do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then two, it's like 70 gigs. Like I'm just trying to clear space out of my computer just for.
I need to get another SSD, man. I've got a terabyte, and I was like, it's plenty. No, it's really that's like 5 games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had just upgraded mine to a terabyte, and then now it's already almost all used up. I have enough space for it. It's just like I said, between playing Hogwarts Legacy and then having to install it. I'm gonna install it. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna see what all the hubbub's about.
Yeah, I look the combat. I don't give it. I couldn't care less about the story, so I'm glad. I don't care if it's good or bad. I always wanted to play this game for the combat or like the world itself, and the world looks interesting, and the combat looks interesting.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Next up, we have what do we have? Oh, this one I just wanted to check in to see where you at on The Last of Us. Are you caught up? Did you just watch the latest episode? I don't want to spoil it for you or the viewers.
No.
At home.
I need to watch episode 5 currently, but I have watched the first 4 episodes. I got my family into it, which is good.
Yeah, it's a very.
My mom really likes it. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to be like. There can people be adverse to like zombies or that type of movies or TV shows, but it's such a small portion of the show. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's there, but really, it's about the characters and it's about their journey. Anyway, it's the latest episode. This is not a spoiler because everyone knows this. Is the latest episode was based on the Left Behind DLC.
Oh, the DLC that you did say you did say that we were gonna have an episode dedicated to the DLC. So
yeah, so that just happened. The show's fantastic. The acting performances, the writing, the direction, the production design, the cost, everything's excellent about it. The only thing I complain about, and it's more of like an overall thing, is that I don't think there's enough episodes because that was episode. If I'm not mistaken, that was episode 7, and so there's only 2 more episodes, 8 and 9, and it's like I feel like we just got started. You know what I mean? Like, look, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played Last of Us Part 2 or anything like that. So I know where Last of Us Part 2, starts and ends up, and I just don't see how you get from where they're at right now to
the
Part
ending
2.
Of the game.
Yeah, to the end of the game to Part 2 in 2 episodes. Hopefully they extend this season out, but until next season. I don't know, but it just doesn't seem like there's enough. I really feel like we just got started, and for it to suddenly, for that storyline to end in 2 episodes just seems very, very quickly. So
yeah,
overall, everything else it's absolutely excellent. So hopefully you catch up, and then we can talk maybe after the season finale. We'll do like a whole season review.
I would be down because I'm not that far behind now. I mean, if you just watched episode 7, I'm only about 3 episodes behind.
Did we talk without spoilers? Did we talk about episode 3 yet?
We haven't spoken about episode 3 yet.
Just give me your overall thoughts, because I remember I tried to not spoil it for you because I was like, because you're like, oh, I've already seen. I'm like, yes, but it's not exactly from the game.
Different. Yeah.
Yes. How'd you enjoy it?
I mean, overall, like I've been enjoying Dennis. The show's amazing.
Yes.
Like there's like I could dissect it. I could spend 10 minutes talking about it, but it's just good. It's just really good, man. Like, I knew it was gonna have the cultural. I know it's still going to have a bigger cultural impact later on down the line, where this show's gonna have so many fans, most of which don't even know it's a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's that level of good. It's it's like The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3. Sorry, The Witcher. I enjoyed The Witcher as a fan of The Witcher, as a fan of the books and the games, and that pulled in a lot of people that didn't know about the games or books, and it pulled people in to watch The Witcher, right? But this show is doing a much bigger job of that. Like a
Yes.
much bigger. It's pulling in so many people who don't know anything about it, and that's
It's
good.
a much more of a cultural phenomenon than The Witcher on Netflix was.
Yeah, so I think season 2, when they do in fact do season 2, I think season 2 is going to make them so much fucking money, Dennis. Because they're going to have the biggest audience. By the time they finish this season, you'll like 80, I'm going to guess and say like 70% of your viewership are people who have no idea that it's a game, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're going to be the people that are stoked for season 2. But
Yeah.
dude, so far it's really, really good, and it's interesting because at the moment, I can't find any series that I'm like that's currently out right now, that's even close to being good in terms of like production value and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I did watch 1899 though. 1899 is pretty good, but that got canceled after one season.
That's why I didn't watch it, because I was like,
Dude,
oh,
don't watch it. It's so good. It's actually so good, and it ends on a really intense cliffhanger. So don't watch it.
yeah, that would just piss me off.
Like I'm pissed off thinking about it, but yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move on. A bunch of Microsoft news.
Yeah.
One, they admitted Game Pass cannibalizes sales, but that was a no-brainer. Everyone knows that. And that's not the point of Game Pass. The point of putting something on Game Pass is, one, to get guaranteed players, and two, it's a subscription system. It's like, that's like saying like Netflix doesn't do anything for people not buying DVDs or Blu-rays. Of course it did. Far less people buy Blu-rays and DVDs ever since all the streaming services came out. You know what I mean? So why wouldn't that be the same for Game Pass, If
I was going to put a game on, if I was a developer and I had my game on Game Pass, if I am not owned by Microsoft, because that's the only, like, Microsoft will then make the money because they can take the money from the subscriptions, put it into the game companies. But where, at least from a consumer point of view, what I'm about to say makes sense to me. Maybe it doesn't make sense though, which is that if I was a developer, I would put my game on Game Pass for like 1 month, and that's it, and then remove it, because I've noticed that the past 3 games I've bought were actually games that I played on Game Pass that I liked so much, and then they got removed from Game Pass, and I was like, well, now I want to keep playing them.
Yeah.
So then you buy them. So I think that's the best way for you to make money as an indie developer is get your game on Game Pass, do a deal for like 2 to 3 months, and if the game is good, people will buy it afterwards because they want to keep playing it,
Yeah. More Nintendo news. This one's interesting because Microsoft has signed a 10-year deal to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo. Now, if you remember, they still don't own Call of Duty yet. This is basically a PR move. Basically say, hey, Nintendo, let's make this deal. Nintendo's like, yeah, sure, whatever. We don't care, because either you buy or Activision Blizzard and you get Call of Duty and cool, then we get the game on our platform, or you don't and then we don't get it. So to Nintendo, it's not that big a deal, right? But to Microsoft, this is like it's a PR move. It's like, hey, look, we're willing to make deals with people. This is the same deal we offered Sony. Nintendo took us up on it, but Sony won't. So it's kind of like it's a PR thing. It's a smart PR move.
I mean,
but
that's the only thing that makes sense to me if it's a PR move, because
it is
for one, there's no way that the Nintendo Switch can barely handle Fortnite. It can't handle like intense first-person shooters. Let's say, take graphics out of the situation. Let's say everything you see is a polygon with like 4 edges. Even then, like, it just doesn't compute that well with the Switch, especially in handheld mode.
I would assume it'd be a streaming version.
Which there are games on the Switch that are streamable. Well, I mean, that's the only way that they work. To buy the game and then you have to kind of stream the game because the system can't run it itself. And every single game that has been streamable on the Nintendo Switch has been horrible. So, like you said, it's probably a PR move. If it's not a PR move, if they're serious about this 10-year deal, then there have been rumors that the next Nintendo device is going to be more higher end. It is going to be more powerful. Because I think like the Switch is great, but I think they're actually properly seeing the limitations of the Switch now. You know what I mean?
Well, also now you have the Steam Deck as a competitor.
Steam Deck, exactly, which is definitely it's definitely better, the Steam Deck. get way more options to games as well. You can
Yeah.
you can play Nintendo games on your Switch. I mean, on your Steam Deck, technically. It
Yeah.
sounds. I mean, and they work really well. I use a Nintendo emulator on my PC all the time, playing games that I already own on my actual Switch, but it's just looks nicer on a bigger screen. Well, you can mod it as well too, which is cool. Like I played Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild in like 4K quality, which you can't do on the Nintendo Switch. But if you got it on PC, you
Yeah.
can do whatever you want, man.
And
But yeah,
another
10 years
note,
is crazy.
another
Yeah.
10-year deal, also PR move, which is they strike a deal with NVIDIA's GeForce Now, which is basically another cloud platform. It's similar to
It's
the
really
way
good though.
it's
It is
similar
really good,
to
I'll say
it's
that.
it's
Yeah.
similar to what Game Pass is doing with their cloud streaming, but basically saying, hey, look, we're not making our games exclusive to just us. We're gonna let a whole different platform, have our games as well. So they're gonna offer that so that they can stream Xbox PC games that are purchased through the Windows Store, Steam, or Epic Game Store. So now, people can have cloud gaming without having to go through Game Pass.
I think one of the things that led to this decision is, I could be wrong about this, but GeForce Now, I think, has a deal with Samsung, or they have a deal with one of the smart TVs, where I don't think it's happened yet, but it's going to be like embedded in there, where that'll be like the gaming streaming thing. I mean, Stadia's gone, but yeah, the GeForce Now has been around for a while, and everybody I know that's tried it out has had very good experiences with it. They've released their own they've released their own smaller devices that you can use as well, or adapters and connections, which is good. What I'm hoping happens is that once they do this deal, I use the GeForce, I use the NVIDIA GeForce and what is this thing called? It's not the GeForce Now, it's the GeForce something. I use that to optimize my games because I don't want to spend 15 to 20 minutes toggling through different settings on my game and then testing it out. I just like to click a button and have it optimized for me. But it doesn't pick up Game Pass games. So I'm hoping that with this deal and all the games coming to GeForce Now, I'm hoping that they will be available on the GeForce app that I have to be able to streamline the games, you know what I mean, or tweak it out a bit better.
Yeah.
I think it's a good deal. I don't think it's much of a PR stunt. I think it's actually a good deal, like for the consumer. I don't know if it's a good deal for Microsoft, but it's a really good deal for the consumer.
Yeah. All right, moving on to some interesting news about releases and delays. So Dead Island 2 actually got released. The release date got moved up by 1 week from April 21st or 28th. Now it's April 21st, which is cool. It's already gold, so they already have it ready. It's obvious that they did this move because Star Wars Jedi Survivor was delayed to April 28th. So obviously, Dead Island 2 you don't want to be the game after, a big game, right? Because then your sales, people just aren't paying attention because they're obsessed with whatever game just came out. You want to come before, right? So having, like, for example, I bought Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I think it was maybe a month before Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, and I was playing that. I was obsessed, and then once it was Red Dead 2 came out, I didn't touch it again. And it's like, but at least they got at least they got my money, right? Because they came out a month before. So that's what Dead Island 2 is gonna do. And I'm looking forward to the game, so I'm excited.
The first Dead Island game is one of my favorite games. It's a good game from my childhood. I enjoyed it a lot. A lot of people kind of got duped into the first Dead Island. I think you spoke about this as well, where it's like they were expecting something else.
Because of the trailer.
I'd never seen the trailer before. So when I had friends tell me, they're like, "Oh, it's not what I thought it was. It's this, this, and this," and I was like, "That sounds awesome. I want that."
Yeah.
So I actually went into the game knowing exactly what it was, and I had a great freaking time, man.
So I had the opposite, where I thought it was going to be like whatever, and it ended up actually being better than I expected because
there you go. Hell yeah.
Not that the trailer was bad. The trailer was cool, but it was just like I was expecting something else, and I actually got something better. So I'm excited for it in a week early. I kind of wish it was more than a week early because at least for the way that I play games, it's like, am I going to be done with it, before Survivor comes out. I don't think so. So I kind of wish it was like 2-3 weeks before, but I don't control. I'm not part of their marketing team. That's all. So obviously that's up to them. We got a delay for The Wolf Among Us 2.
But for a good reason. At least it's avoid crunch.
Yeah, they don't want to crunch. I think with a game like this, it makes sense, right? Because it's a cult favorite. It's not a big AAA title, right? So there's not like, obviously there's stuff riding on it, but it's not like a huge game that, like, you know what I mean? Like how Cyberpunk 2077 was, right? Like it's like it got delayed so many times and finally came out. They're like, and even when it came out, it wasn't really ready, but like they were like, we delayed it enough. You know what I mean? You can do it kind of with these kind of smaller type games, and I think it's less hurtful.
It's also been a while. You know what I mean? It's not like the game it's not like the first game came out a year ago. You know what I mean? Like technically, they didn't even have to tell us this game existed. You know what I mean? It's like it's managing expectations. Does that make sense?
And Telltale also has the Expanse game coming out, which I'm really looking forward to.
Because I binge watched the show. You said awesome. The show's good.
Yeah. I binge watched it. It's excellent. So I'm very looking forward to that. That is coming out this year, and they actually just released a extended video on that, I think a week or two ago, and it looks great. Telltale games are not about like super action or whatever, and the graphics aren't supposed to be top. It's about story.
All about the narrative. About the narrative, man. Yeah. And that's why I said I'm glad that they're taking the delay. Look, I don't think there's crunch on the game itself because most Telltale games aren't exactly the most resource heavy.
No.
I just think that I think they're taking their time with the story and the branching story paths. When you do something that has multiple options and multiple endings, you have so many branching storylines. You know what I mean? That takes a long time, and to make them all kind of work with each other takes a long time. So I'm glad they're taking their time with it. It just means that the dialogue and the narrative is going to be better.
Yeah, you can put those games on tablets, like an iPad, or I have an Android tablet, Samsung.
Dennis,
whatever.
You can put them on Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, the Minecraft story mode game, which was I don't think Telltale did it, but it was essentially a Telltale game. Mm-hmm. They took that and they put it on Netflix.
Yeah.
They have a lot of those interactive movies on Netflix nowadays, or there's even like a trivia game on Netflix that you can play, which is quite cool. So yeah. Like, actually, now that I think about it, Telltale, man, if you guys are out there and you guys somehow stumble across this video, sell your IP to Netflix or sell your old games to Netflix, especially if the choices are left and right. If it's the choices between two things, that's money in the bank, man. Netflix is loving that stuff at the moment, their interactive movies and TV shows.
Yeah, they're definitely pushing that. All right, the last thing I have, which is the Tetris trailer came out. And the movie isn't blocks falling from the sky or whatever. Like it's about the making of, which makes sense, right? It's, the behind the stories whole thing about how the game, because the game kind of already existed, but how it became popular, how it got brought to the US, how it became a global phenomenon.
It's about the seller, or like like the guy who was kind of selling it or marketing it.
Yeah, he didn't create it; he found it, and then realized this thing can be huge, and he went to Russia to like make a deal. But it was like, this is, if people don't know this was like communist Russia. I mean, we obviously know Russia is not some sort of like democracy.
As well.
It's not obviously not a democracy right now, but back then it was like even worse. This Cold War era communist Soviet Union, not even Russia. So things were much harder to get done. But anyways, it looks good.
It does. Yeah, it looks good. It looks a little over the top, but I like that. Like an over exaggeration of what happened. Like, big fan of Taron Egerton. I think he's a phenomenal actor. He does a good job of this. And when I mean like they've like can't find the right dialogue for this, but it doesn't matter. The movie looks good. I'm really looking forward to it. It's gonna have so many little Easter eggs. If you're a big fan of gaming and you know the history of gaming, I think there's gonna be quite a few Easter eggs there. You know what I mean? Little things to look out for. Yeah, that's good.
I think that's the last thing on my list. Do you have anything?
I got nothing, and even
All
if I
right.
did, I'd probably call it wraps.
Yeah.
My meds are kicking in. I can
Cool.
feel my words getting slower. um,
Cool. Yeah, we've been running for over an hour now. We covered a lot
yeah.
of stuff. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep playing Hogwarts Legacy. Hopefully, wrap that up. Play a little Atomic Heart. What's the next big release coming out? At least in my.
Oh, you know what I haven't tried yet, and I think it did just come out is Wolong. How do you pronounce that, by the
Oh,
way? Because I know it's Chinese.
Wulong. Wulong.
Okay, Wulong.
I don't think
Yeah,
it's out yet, though. I
I know
think
it should be
it's
coming out any day
very
now.
soon.
Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
literally, yeah.
I'm
I
taking
don't
a
know if you would
look at
consider
this.
that a big release or
Yeah,
not.
it is a bigger release. I put that on like
Yeah,
the Atomic Heart level, right?
yeah.
It's
You can yeah. Wo Long or Wu Long,
yeah,
and it's coming out. What the hell?
March
Where's the?
March 3rd, which is this Friday. So,
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
well,
I haven't even played
tomorrow
Atomic
technically
Heart.
for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I was
So
gonna say so. It's coming out soon. Yeah. It's coming out like tomorrow. Yeah.
yeah, I want to play that as well. So I gotta get on this, Atomic Heart thing and play some
Oh,
Wulong, and
did you
then
hear about Game Pass doing a family package? Did we talk about that?
yes, a long time ago we had talked about them talking about it, but I
Yeah.
don't think we
I
got
think they're gonna.
do they have
I think they're
details?
gonna. I think. Well, I did read something about it recently. I think they are gonna implement it now. I
Hmm.
think I remember seeing a price point on it. It's like, well, in my currency, it's about not double. Okay, so like, I'm paying 80 rand a month in my currency. I pay 80 rand a month for the service, right? Which is supposed to be like the $5 or whatever, roughly,
Mm-hmm.
just for Game Pass for PC. The plan they have in place is to pay 200 rand a month. So you're paying just slightly over more than double, but
Hmm.
that's up to 4 users, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then it's up. So you and
I
three other people can
unfortunately I
split the
don't
bill.
have
You know what I mean?
people in
Like
my
if you had a,
family that play
I was
games.
gonna, dude, I was gonna say I don't know
So
any other people either. If but that's what I would do if I was younger.
yeah.
I would get me and my friends together and be like, yo,
Yeah. Look,
we each put in like $2 or $3 a month, and we just share the family plan. You know?
yeah, kids today don't know how lucky they have it because something like Game Pass, if this existed when I was in like high school, I've been all
Game
over
over,
it, and
man.
then doing some sort of like friends and family package would have been like crazy. You know what I mean?
The
Would have been
most
like, oh my
man,
god.
I kind of miss box sets. You know what I mean? When you used to go buy like a deluxe edition of like a game, it would come in like a nice big box and you could put it on a shelf, and I miss that kind of stuff.
The last
I
one I
and
bought
all
was a
yeah.
Fallout one, I think. The
Oh,
last box
nice.
set, yeah.
There was a very awkward point in time in history where, at least here in South Africa, maybe it wasn't an issue in America, when it was like the PS3, Xbox 360 era, and we still had dial-up connections in South Africa. So if you wanted to have a software update for your PlayStation or your Xbox, you had to take your USB device, drive down to your nearest GameStop, get them to upload the firmware onto the USB, take it home, plug it. It meant I had to go through like hurdles upon hurdles just to update my PS3 back in the day.
Yeah. All right, cool. I guess that's it. Make sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Revog. You can follow me on Twitter @ThinkHero or on Instagram, dennis.tzng. You subscribe to our podcast feed on anchor.fm or Spotify. Also, remember, I dropped my music video that I directed. I'll post the link in the description below, or you can find it on my social media accounts. Josh, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitch at It's Thespis, all lowercase. There should be a link in the description below. Once I get to 100 followers, I'll go back to actively streaming. And you guys can find me in the Revog Discord channel. I'm all for games and talking about games and movie shows and all that kind of stuff. I love to talk to you guys, so I'll be in the Discord channel if you guys ever want to talk about anything. Maybe we can even get some community games going at some point, which would be quite nice.
Yeah.
And as usual, comment down below if you guys want any gameplay videos on the channel. I'm more than happy to do like a 10-minute video here and there about like new games coming out. You know what I mean? Do a first impression while playing it, which is I might do that for Atomic Heart.
Nice. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Later.